Okay, as this is about sowing the seeds of a handicap. Okay, many years before I was born, and I'm 65 now, a woman felt an overpowering physical attraction to a man. As soon as she saw him, she perceived herself as being in love with him. He asked her out on a date. They had 3 dates. There was no sex, only kissing. He stopped calling after the 3rd date. She had what amounted to a nervous breakdown. She couldn't sleep. She had insomnia. She sobbed for days on end. She was non-functional because she perceived herself as being in love, and he simply stopped calling. There was no sex. Okay. This led to my being disabled. This one, because who did this happen to? This happened to my mother. It didn't happen to me, it happened to my mother. But it is one of the central traumas of my life. I was less than 10 years old. I don't know how old I was, perhaps 5 or 6, but less than 10 years old. Okay, people have been telling spook stories about ESP, about premonitions. And my mother told me, I had a terrible experience with it, I'll tell you about it. Okay, right there's a problem. If you've had a terrible experience, why would you share that with your child? The child is going to be upset by it and can't do anything about it. Now, if you have had a terrible experience, you might tell it to maybe a teenager, maybe an adult child, perhaps to warn them against something that they should stay away from. But to tell it to a small child less than 10 years old, there's no reason to do that. And there's a lot of reasons not to do it. Okay, but my mother took me into the kitchen. And this is supposed to be at ESP. And she said that she saw a man and she thought, this is the one. And it turned out it wasn't the one. And I said, but Mother, what does this have to do with it? Because in ESP, or premonitions or omens, it's supposed to come true. This didn't come true. Okay, right there's a problem. I'm being confused. I was told that this was about ESP, about premonitions, about omens, but it's not. It's about a love affair that went wrong. It's about something completely different. Okay, so I'm being confused and I'm being disturbed. Now, she didn't just tell me about it. Throughout my childhood, I was periodically reminded of this man. I don't even want to say his name now. And I'm 65 years old and his name bothers me. Okay, but I can remember one time when she was bathing me, and I said, Mother, repeatedly I had asked her, please don't mention him anymore. Please don't mention him anymore. Because mentioning him got me very upset. I couldn't live my own life. I had to be continuously dragged into my mother's past. I had to continuously suffer this rejection that she had suffered. I had to continuously suffer a trauma that was many years older than I was. And so I would beg her to please don't mention him anymore. Please don't mention him anymore. It didn't affect her at all. One time she was bathing me, and I knew that she had a very strong aversion to the F word, the word F-U-C-K. Okay, that was the ultimate dirty word in our family. And I told her, Mother, if you mention him again, I'm going to say a very nasty word. And she said, no, you won't, because if you do that, I will give you a very nasty slap. But here's the problem. Your child is begging you, threatening you. She wants you not to mention a trauma that you suffered before the child was born. Is that such an unreasonable request? And yet, it To my mother, it was an unreasonable request. I had to suffer that trauma with her repeatedly throughout my childhood. I had to be reminded of this man. Okay. And, but she never really saw how awful it was or how much it was harming me. But anyway, this is one of the reasons that I have a handicap. And this is, and again, it's a love. It sounds like I tried to explain this to a psychologist one time. And, she was, there, people do get confused. When I first mentioned my mother's ex-boyfriend, they think it's one of these "I was raped by my stepfather" stories that everybody's already heard. Okay, and then I have to explain I never met him. And my a psychologist asked, "Did you think he might be your father?" And I had to explain they never had sex. I never thought that. And then 3 dates? That's it? That's it? It's a big deal when you're a child, and all through your childhood and into your adolescence and even into your adulthood, you have to hear about this. It was a big deal. Shouldn't have been a big deal because I should never have known about it. But I didn't just know about it, I was continuously reminded of it. And that was one of the reasons that factored into my disability. I hope you enjoyed hearing that. And I hope you'll tell people about me so I can grow my social media presence. Thank you.